Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to another episode of Modernize or Die CFML podcast. So, Eric, you did not miss it. We're just waiting for you, as Brad said in the chat window. So, if you guys are watching live or listening live, thank you. If you're not, remember we can be found on YouTube every week live as we record this. So, you can heckle us from the chat window whenever. So, again, I'm glad to have Brad Wood joining me.
How's it going, Gavin? It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
So, last week I saw you in the flesh, but now I'm just back to the grainy podcast image of you.
Yep.
I almost touch you. Wait, where are you? You're over here.
Yep. Kind of strange being back in the house after a long week. But before we get into that, let's talk about some news. So first on the news is it's October. And for those who don't know, what does October mean to developers, Brad?
It means Hacktoberfest, Gavin.
Yep. So for those of you who haven't seen the cool t-shirts that some developers wear around the place, limited edition t-shirts with Hacktoberfest, they may have triggered your curiosity, but we're here to tell you a little bit more about Hacktoberfest. So it's a cool initiative. I think they're in the 7th edition now. So
It's been going for a while.
Yeah, DigitalOcean started this a long time ago, and they've had a lot of great partners. And this year they're teaming up with Dev, and so they're going to try and basically push the open source community and try and grow it. So we've done it for the last couple of years at Ortus, right?
Yeah, I've done it for at least 3 years now, I think. So there's a couple of the Ortus people sporting their Hacktoberfest t-shirts. But I mean, it's really pretty drop dead simple. I mean, you sign up for it, just log in through your GitHub account, and you send 4 pull requests to any open source repo over the month of October. And that's basically it. They automatically pull the data from GitHub, so they know when you've gotten your 4, and they don't have to be merged. They just have to be, placed. And if you do it, which isn't that hard, I mean, find some spelling fixes or some documentation that's missing, send those pull requests. It even works on the any of our Gitbook documentation at Ortus. It's all stored in GitHub. So I mean, you can fix 4 typos in like an afternoon. And when you get a free t-shirt, you get some stickers, you usually get some little coupons for DigitalOcean and stuff. So not that much effort.
Yeah, but it basically started just to help getting people involved in open source. Everyone thinks that open source is big and scary, and it might be, but this is
it might be.
The whole idea about it, though, is basically, get people started. I mean, these, like you said, this year it's only 4 pull requests. I think previously it was 5, and as long as you're not spammy and the contributors basically don't mark your pull request as invalid, then yeah, the pull requests count. So like Brad said, documentation is a great place to start. If you are a developer in Cold Fusion, hopefully you've used CFDocs. If not, Pete Freitag actually has a blog post about it because it's the busiest month of the year for him. He gets hundreds of pull requests, and we'll talk about his blog post a little later. But yeah, so Hacktoberfest is pretty cool. If you haven't done any open source, please go check it out. You can look at hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com, find out about it. They've got a whole bunch of repos that are tagged with Hacktoberfest. And just so you know, it does not have to be tagged with that for you to be able to contribute. As long as it's a GitHub repo, which is open on GitHub, you can go ahead and make some pull requests. And I accidentally... I'm already halfway there because I made a couple of pull requests last week.
Accidentally?
Yeah, well, I made one for Eric's integrated module, and we have a pagination module that Javier, one of the Ortus members, did. So I made some fixes on that. So
I don't see why that's accidental, but
well, I was just doing work, and when I signed up, it already saw that I had 2 pull requests waiting. So I was like, "Ooh,
good on you, mate."
So that's pretty cool.
If you're listening live on YouTube right now, I just put that link in the live chat. We'll see if it works. I tried to put links in the live chat last time I was on, and I think YouTube marked me as a spammer, and it blocked every single link I put on. So I'm doing it under the Ortus Solutions account. We'll see if YouTube lets them go through this time.
Yeah, I see it. We'll see if everybody else can. But
I'm not a spammer, YouTube. Don't tase me, bro.
Yep. So as long as your pull requests happen between October 1st and 31st, they'll flag as part of the competition, and they have a limited number of 50,000 shirts. And I think previously they got up to about 48,000 or something. So, there is room for growth, but don't wait too long, because every year it's getting higher. They started with about, I think, 5 or 10,000 the first year, and thanks to some great sponsors, they're basically able to give out 50,000 t-shirts every year.
It's quite an expenditure for them, but I guess they do get quite a bit of marketing out of it. So.
Yep, and I mean they team up with a couple of places, and it's funny. I heard a podcast where they're telling stories about how the shirts have to get to all these strange places in the middle of nowhere, and the logistics of the shipping is way harder than the printing of the shirts. Like there's some places in Africa where the shipping is not USPS and UPS. It's a little different.
Oh my gosh.
And they're talking about how some of the shirts cost, way less than the shipping to get them to people, but they do try, and they start sending out about a week after your last pull request and everything's validated. They start shipping, and you should get them in a month or two, depending on that. But, it's a great project, and we like DigitalOcean and GitHub, and we want to support stuff like that. And obviously, we're a big open source company, so if you wanted to get started, like Brad said, documentation is perfect. I'm sure we got some spelling mistakes out there or something.
If you don't know where to start, ping us on Slack or Twitter, and I'm sure any of the Ortus folk will happily direct you to an open source repo where you can make some improvements.
Yep. So
don't send one pull request for each word you change, though. That would just gone too far.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll mention Pete Freitag's blog post on Hacktoberfest. He put some pretty good guidelines in there for what you should do, as far as formatting and big pull requests, small pull requests, etc. So we'll have that in the show notes later on. If you go to petefreitag.com, you can see that as well.
What's next, Gavin?
Well, before CF Summit, we were pretty busy at Ortus trying to get everything ready, and so we released Redis Lucee Extension version 1.3.0. So,
that's right.
Yep, we're building up our little library of Lucee extensions here for our caching. So we've got a Couchbase one. The Redis Lucee extension has been updated, and I think we're working on that MongoDB. I do not know if it's actually released yet.
I know it's in progress. I'm not actually sure what the status is. I've seen some chattering going on about it. It's worth noting, I think, a couple of people, Eric says he has a lot of open issues on GitHub. You have a lot of issues, Eric. No, there's some of the Ortus extensions, some people will ask us, because they'll say, well, isn't there an official Lucee extension already for Redis? Or isn't there an official Lucee extension for Mongo? There is, and if you want to use those, they're free. You can. The big difference from the Ortus ones is that they are supported by us. So if you have a problem getting the extension to work, or you run into a bug, something doesn't work right, you need some support. With the free extensions, you may be out on your own. If you can't get a ticket responded to, you can't dig through the code and get a pull request sent yourself. So kind of the biggest difference between these Ortus extensions are that we're supporting them and we're standing behind them, and it kind of follows our coding standards internally. So you're kind of getting that guarantee that we're going to help you get it running, help you get over your bumps. So
yeah, and I believe the Redis one started that we were trying to use Redis for a customer, and we used the Lucee one, and we had issues, and we got stuck. And so we're like, okay, we can't get anywhere, so we'll build it ourselves. That's kind of the way we work.
Yeah, we found ourselves in that boat, and so
yep,
that was our solution.
And yeah, it is a commercial extension, but a lot of these, they work out to if you spend an hour or two trying to figure it out yourself, then it's paid for itself. So that's obviously we're here to support open source, and we do everything we can to open source. But some of these extensions, we put 50, 60 hours into making them, work the way we want to. And so if you can pay a couple hours back, then that helps pay for that. But
so that's not the only thing we released last week, is it? Or 2 weeks ago now.
Yep. CBSecurity was also released version 2.0. So that's a pretty big module, and we're using that inside of Content Box and some of our other apps. But the big thing probably added to it, on top of all the other fixes and changes that Luis added, was the JWT support. So now, right inside of the CBSecurity, you can generate, decode, and authenticate JWTs. So that's JSON with tokens. For those
we were playing a drinking game in Vegas. Every time Luis said JWT tokens, we'd take a shot. Actually, no, we weren't drinking, but we were snickering in the back every time he said JWT tokens, because the T stands for tokens. But yeah. The new Security Interceptor really kind of combines together a bunch of things. It's a bit more opinionated, in my opinion. I think it's a bit more opinionated in how it works. But we found a lot of people kind of just want something like that, right? A lot of times we have a bunch of sort of really, I don't want to say vague, but generic modules, and people say, how do we use them? We're like, however you want, right? Sometimes people like, just tell us what to do, dang it. So the new security module really kind of just wraps a bunch of stuff together. It's got a security rule engine that, maps incoming request. You can determine what's secured, what's open. You can do annotations right there in your handlers to set what's secured, either generically at the whole component level or all the way down to little, nitty gritty roles and permissions. And then the JWT stuff, the JSON Web Tokens, there's modules floating around for that. And this kind of bundles that in so you can kind of just have one big package. And we just went through all this in our training at CF Camp. And it really kind of gives a sort of compelling package of, I want to get started. How can I move forward? The security module kind of gives you all those pieces that you need.
I think you actually meant CF Summit, but you got CF Camp on the mind because you're.
I've got CF Camp rotting my brain away already. I just got signed up for a second session this morning for CF Camp. So.
Okay. Yep. So at the Ortus training this week, we had the API superhero training basically, and that's what you'll be doing at CF Camp as well. So. But yeah, that module, we had to get that out the door because previously in previous versions of this, we had all the different modules and you kind of have to wire up yourself. And Luis like, why do we keep doing this? Let's just make the module do it all.
Yeah, every time we build an API, we have to wire all the same things together. And we kind of get to a point where we're like, let's just wrap everything we do up in one bundle. And it's like, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. Yeah.
Yep. So it's a big release. It is a major release. There's a blog post on the Ortus Solutions blog for that. And like I said, a lot of people at the training last week just loved it. And they're all excited to go home and play with it. So I'm sure
we were rocking it.
Yep. Yeah. So, big release there, but that's not all. So also TestBox.
But wait, there's more.
TestBox 3.1.0 was released, so that had a few more fixes in it too. So I believe it had 3 bugs, 5 new features, and 3 improvements. So it was only a minor version, so 3.1.0.
Yeah, my favorite one is the focus feature now. So we've had this ticket in for a while, it just hasn't been added. But as you're probably already aware, when you're writing TestBox tests, you can put an X in front of your describe or your it method or any of the give it when then stuff. And it basically means skip it. So everything nested beneath it, you just, X describe and just kind of just turns it off temporarily during your test. And the opposite is the focus. So you put an F in front of it, which means focus. So it's like F it or F describe. And that means run only this describe block or only this it block, which is a really nice way if you're working in your unit test and you just want to maybe focus on 3 of them that are failing or that you're writing. You don't want to run the whole suite. You can just throw that in there. When in the training, I was like, for any audio engineers, just like the solo button on your soundboard. You solo a channel and you only listen to that one. Anyway, that's how I think of it. But yeah, that's definitely my favorite feature in the new TestBox release.
That's cool. Yeah, I hadn't even tried that one out yet, but it's one of those things where people, you got a bunch of failing tests, like you said, or you want to show off one particular test to somebody. That sounds like a great little feature. So
yeah,
it's easy than Xing out all the rest.
Well, yeah, and it's the equivalent of what I used to do in the interface when I'd click on the test name and I'd reload the page and it would filter on that bundle. But with the focus, you can actually focus on several tests. You can put an if on 2 or 3, or an F before 2 or 3 describe blocks, which gives you a bit more flexibility, which is nice.
Cool. So again, on the ortussolutions.com blog, you can find out more about TestBox 3.1.0. And last week we were at CF Summit. So that's why we're doing a couple of weeks worth of coverage here, because we did have a podcast last week at CF Summit, but we didn't have time to go into all the news and all the blog posts and everything else. So you're getting a little extra today. But so last week, CF Summit. Did you have a good time, Brad? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it was great. CF Summit's always fun. Vegas is always crazy and loud and bright and in your face. It's Vegas, But the conference was fantastic. They had I think over 500 people there. And again, as usual, about half of them, like 50%, were brand new attendees that had never been to a CF Summit. So lots of new faces there. I was joking that there's 2 kinds of people that came by the Ortus booth. There were people that came by and were like, "Oh, hey, Ortus, how you guys doing? We use Command Box, we use Cold Box." And then the other people that came by would be like, "Ortus, so what do you guys do?" Which is great because then you get to be like, "Let me show you what we do. Have some stickers." Man, we had a big old pile of stickers at our booth. We were like handing them out like candy, like $100 bills.
Yep, and it was pretty good. I mean, the first sticker I heard that disappeared was one for this podcast, so I was pretty proud.
Yeah, we had Modernize or Die stickers. I've got them on my laptop right now.
Yep. So if you guys are going to CF Camp, Eric, Jorge, and Brad are going to be representing Ortus with some stickers out there too. So,
and we have more stickers. Yep.
Yeah. So we got lots of stickers there. But yeah, the Ortus booth was good. A lot of conversations with current users and some new users too. And a lot of the sessions were telling people, hey, go check out Ortus. If you're not using Command Box, you have to be. And that was probably the most. Most openly stated comment in every session was,
how many people had to pay off to get that, Gavin?
A lot of stickers.
So the pre-conference stuff was a big hit. Nolan was kind of in charge of that, I think. What they have over 125 attendees, I think.
Yeah,
all went for the Adobe Cold Fusion Specialist certification.
Yeah, and I was actually a TA in Nolan's class, but the funny thing was is that they had so many people, they actually had to use 3 rooms. So they had 3 big rooms, and they had a couple other speakers there too. So Nolan was running one room, but they had to get Brian Sappi, and I don't remember the other speaker, but yeah, late editions, they had to add more rooms because they had so many people sign up for it. So that's a great sign for Adobe, and 90% of them passed too. So that's a pretty high pass rate. And I believe I did talk to Alicia a little bit, and she said that she's going to try and make a special setup for those who did not pass to give them another opportunity. They really wanted to make sure that people who did the training get the most out of it. There was video content provided before that they had to watch, and then on the day they went through sort of a review and made sure everything that was on the test was covered. People got an opportunity to ask questions, and there were some interesting ones too. So, it was a pretty smooth process, though. A lot of content. Nolan showed some great examples on the projector and went through things. Good participation with the audience, and yeah, it was a good day all in all. So
if 90% of 125 people passed, that means, according to my calculations, 112 and one half person all waltzed back into their office this week with a certification in hand, slammed it down on their boss's desk, and said, "Time to talk about that raise."
Yep.
If you didn't do that, missedopportunity.com. So
yeah, so I saw some of them walking around with certificates at the end of it.
I would have pinned it to my badge. I've been like, "Hey, you see this? Look at this. That's right. Certified. That's right. You saw."
Yep. They're just trying to get their badge as cool as mine.
Okay, so Gavin's badge at CF Summit had so many, the little add-on stickers. They, kind of stick onto the bottom of the badge, and it says like speaker, staff, silver sponsor. Gavin's was like an old man's beard dragging all the way to the ground, but it was all the stickers, the trail of stickers at the bottom of his name tag. Just ridiculous.
Yep, I tell you what, more people came up and talked to me about that than anything else. They don't care what I was speaking about or who I was.
Let me tell you about Content Box.
And they're like, where'd you get all these stickers? But I acquire them at different conferences I go to, and I just happen to have them in my bag. I pulled out all my cables and stuff for my training. I was like, oh, I still got it. So I added onto mine, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I remember Jason Dean walking around at CF Objective when he had the alumni member and founding member and cab, and he had 12 or something, like a fancy tie, and everybody thought he was so cool for having that. So I'm like, I can be cool too, maybe.
You were that guy, Gavin. That was you this conference.
Yep, pretty funny. So, but it was a good time. Rashi spoke in the first keynote and went over a lot of great stuff for Adobe CF 2020. What's the most exciting thing you're looking forward to?
In 2020?
Yeah, well, the 2020 version.
Well, I think I mentioned this briefly in, or no, maybe I didn't. I forget what I said in our live podcast, because I did a couple little short videos with Michaela Light too while I was there. What I'm looking forward to most in Cold Fusion 2020 is they've had this on the roadmap for a while, but they're talking serious about it. Is the new modular architecture? I talked with a bunch of the Adobe engineers. I cornered them and pinned them down and was like, "This is none." No, I'm just kidding. We had a great time talking with them. And we talked to them a lot about, features and where they're going. And I know they're looking at doing LSGI. so they can kind of dynamically load jars and stuff on the fly and unload them, which is what Lucee does. They're looking about a modular architecture so they can kind of, turn non-core functionalities like PDFs and stuff into something that's removable from the core of Cold Fusion. And, the Cold Fusion wars right now, the war file web archive for starting a server are over 300 megabytes. And they're saying that they're going to get the core Cold Fusion runtime down to like 50 megs, which is a big stepping stone for a lot of the cloud native stuff they're talking about. AWS Lambda, and other kind of serverless functionalities. Now you can't download a 300 meg, package just to start up a CFML engine when you're paying by the millisecond. So I'm most excited about some of those kind of architectural changes that I think are the stepping stones to a smaller, lighter, faster, Adobe Cold Fusion runtime. And so I'm kind of pumped about that. It remains to be seen exactly how it will work. I've begged them to kind of look at the precedent that Lucee's set for some of the things like OSGI bundles and how that fits into create object and stuff, just so we, keep the CFML language as consistent as possible. But it's promising.
Very cool. Yeah, I know a lot of people are interested in the cloud features they're having and what's going to be involved there. And, it does sound like a good thing if they can tie into AWS and everything. As long as they keep up to date, that's the biggest thing when you tie into a third party, right? If everything moves faster than their updates, that's the only concern with that. But Nolan did a good write-up. So if you look at selfishasta.com, he has a whole blog post on the notes from the keynote and a lot of other ones, to be honest. Nolan does a great job keeping notes on conferences. But if you're wanting to know more about that specifically, I definitely check that out. The second day keynote was pretty cool too. We had Andrew Tarvin talk about humor that works. So I finally got
He's a comedian, right?
Yeah, he's a comedian engineer. So
comedian engineer. Aren't we all, Gavin?
Yeah, that's probably why we like working together, because we have some fun. But basically showing that humor in the workplace actually makes people more productive and happy. So now I finally got an excuse for being a joker at work. So I enjoyed that session. And there's a lot of other great sessions too. And it was good to see a lot of new faces and old faces. And speaking of old faces, or older, we ran into Matt Gifford, who traveled like 20 hours to get there.
Who are you calling old?
Exactly. I just want to make sure he's listening here. But no, so Matt Gifford made it. It's been a while since we've seen him at a Cold Fusion conference in the States, so it was good to see him and catch up. And he had a great session too.
He blogged yesterday, I think, basically saying that he had taken a break from blogging ever since he'd moved to I believe Cyprus.
Yep.
And apparently a lot of people thought he'd left Cold Fusion just because his blog kind of dried up. So he had people coming up to him saying, "Oh, I thought you left Cold Fusion and moved on."
Yep.
He was saying, "Nope, very much, making my living in Cold Fusion, just haven't been blogging." So Matt Gifford promised to bring his blog back out.
Well, he's had 4 blog posts since he left Cold Fusion Summit, so he's on his way. Pete said if he keeps this up, he'll get his own section above Ben Nadell's.
Well, go for it. I pointed out a video. If you look on Twitter,
it's in the list.
A video. Oh, okay, all right. I'll hold that one off then.
Yep, exactly.
Talk about it later.
But the workshops that we had after CF Summit were great too. A lot of great people. I was really happy with what we had turn out. Our session and your session sound like it went really well too. We met together. The two groups met for lunch, and it seemed like we had a really productive time.
The trainings were a blast. Yeah. So the penthouse suites that were rented out this year, I think were like the best ones we've had. They had a huge conference table, like all window view, big old like big screen TV, and we all just sat around with our laptops and our dual monitors. I had to go buy one. I felt left out. In both sessions, we all just built like an entire working app from scratch. So you guys, a session, you built your rant stuff. We built a Coldbox REST API. It was good times.
Yep, and then we had a couple late nights too, working until about 2:00 in the morning, watching Brooklyn 99 and knocking out some quick updates.
Hackathon.
So, yep, always good times. And there was some good food too. We tried all the buffets. We decided the Aria buffet was way better than the Mirage, just for future reference.
Oh yeah, the Aria buffet like totally kicks the Mirage's buffet's butt. It's not even. There's no competition there. Don't even. Just take my word for it.
But I did like the Brazilian steakhouse. Pampas is one of my favorites. Place I always go there.
Mm-hmm.
So we enjoyed that too. Even got some Top Golf in, so it was a great week.
Oh yeah, Top Golf. That was fun. I didn't even golf. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to knock the ball and not fall on my butt, but it's still fun.
We almost killed ourselves a couple of times with the balls bouncing off everything that it shouldn't be, but we survived. Nobody fell off. We walked out of there.
We walked out alive.
Exactly, but good times. Anyway, so CF Summit was a blast. I heard Alicia's already planning the next two, so they're working on the next two already. So if you guys missed out, you missed out on a great week, a great time, and so start planning for next year. And we'll be there again with some training, either before or after. Ortus will always be there. So,
and if you're on the East Coast, look out for the Cold Fusion Summit East. And if you're in India, they're having the Cold Fusion Summit India, which is actually in the Adobe Cold Fusion headquarters in Bangalore. So I think they had like over 200 people last year, and they're having it again soon. So I'm actually pretty excited about the number of Cold Fusion programmers that are over in India. So that's pretty cool.
Very cool. So that wraps it for CF Summit for this year. We'll probably have a couple of snippets coming up soon. I did take time to do a couple little videos of a couple of the speakers, and so you may see a couple of things sneaking out soon. But yeah, so you won't be hearing about CF Summit too much every week like you have lately, but it was well worth it, and we had a lot of fun. But one more bit of news. CF Camp, you guys are leaving at the end of this week, right, Brad?
I'm leaving Thursday. So I'm leaving for Germany in like 2 days. I'm taking my family, not my whole family, my wife and one of my daughters. And I don't know the order we're doing it because my wife plans these things, but we're hitting Paris. I can see the Eiffel Tower. We're hitting London. I've never been to either of those places. And then we're driving into Munich, and we're hitting Neuschwanstein Castle. And I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff we're going to do. So
CF Camp is coming up very quick. So just wanted to let you know, if you're listening right now, there's a last minute discount code for the last couple of spots in the CF Camp training that Ortus is doing. So if you go to the registration page and use the discount code CF Camp Rocks, you can get 30% off our Ortus training. So the 2-day training that we just did, the Hero to Superhero with API edition, with all that JWT awesomeness.
The JWT tokens.
I tried not
JSON.
Yep, and then
we had 2 people sign up just this morning for the TestBox training, so we still have some room. If you're going to be in Germany, you're going to be at CF Camp. Snag these open spots,
and these will be right beforehand. But that 30% discount, like I said, last minute discount. We want to just fill those last couple of spots, so jump on that. So with that being said, let's talk about what else is coming up. As we mentioned, next week, Luis is going to be in India, but unfortunately, this is already sold out. So this boot camp is sold out. We're pretty happy to have that. Like I say, a lot of developers in India, and it's good to see them coming out and trying some new stuff. So we've got, I think he has 15 people or so in that boot camp. So we can't fit any more in, sorry. But they're going to be going through the Hero to Zero. So they're going to be building a Twitter clone. We call it Soapbox. That's a great one. And so hopefully you guys, the ones that are going there, are going to get a lot out of it. And then if we get a good turnout, we're going to try and do these more often. It sounds like there's more developers there looking for some modern CFML. So, but while Luis is there, as you said, you'll be at CF Camp. So CF Camp is obviously a really good conference. It's the 10th year. It's pretty exciting that they've lasted this long, and they still have good turnout every year. So.
Yeah, I think there's going to be around 150 people right now, unless some more sign-ups. So good numbers at CF Camp for sure.
Yep, and if you buy the ticket before you get there, there's still some slight early bird discounts available there. So you can get tickets on cfcamp.org. And if you're not able to get there as early as 2 days for our Ortus training, there are some other pre-conference trainings as well. So there's PresideCon, there's an Elastic Stack, centralize your logs. There's also a Get into Linux one as well. So if you go to cfcamp.org/pre-conference.html, you can see all the other pre-conference options. And there's 1 day and 2 day options available. And so again, if you've got that CF Camp Rocks coupon, you can save 30% on the Ortus trainings. And so Eric Peterson will be leading that Rest Easy at Night with TestBox BDD. And Brad, you'll be leading that Hero to Superhero API Rest Edition.
And that's the one we just did in Vegas. It was super fun. We basically built an entire headless CMS, just like a REST API, in ColdBox from scratch. Everybody started with an empty directory, and we just started scaffolding out commands. Everything was tested. I pulled out the TestBox code coverage stuff with Fusion Reactor, and had like 96% test coverage, like out of the box, just following through our instructions. And so, of course, I added a couple extra tests to get it up to 100%. But it's a fully tested API that we're building using the JSON JWT tokens from the web and all the other best practices. So I'm super excited to get that training in Germany.
Yep. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that too. And again, CF Camp is a great conference, and hope everyone that does go have fun, and hopefully we'll see you next year, because I'm hoping to convince my wife to take some time off and let's go see some Europe.
Yeah, you got to come next year, man.
Yeah, been saying it for a couple of years now, but I think I finally. So the wife's a teacher, and teachers don't get time off during the year, so she had to do her time and make sure everyone loves her enough that she can take time off and still have a job to come back to. Okay,
all right.
So
blogs, tweets, and videos.
Yep, let's get to it. So speaking of CF Camp, Michaela Light had an interview with a couple of the organizers from CF Camp, Kai Koenig, and is it Mishi Nat? I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, Mishi Nat. So they talked about everything about CF Camp 2019. So there's a podcast available. If you go to teartech.com, you can see that there. So the CFLI podcast with those interviews. So find out what's going on there. Maybe they've got some secret inside info that you can find out. So check that out. And if you don't have time to listen to the podcast, I do think they have a transcription there as well. So you can check that out. And then it looks like you've been busy. So at CF Summit all week, and you couldn't stop blogging, huh? So it looks like you had a blog post on CommandBox web server lockdown example. So you want to tell us a little bit about this?
I did. This has been rolling around the back of my head for a while, and I've been wanting to stick it down on a blog. And I had a couple conversations on Slack about people saying, can I use CommandBox for a production server? I was like, yeah, of course you can. Just, lock it down like you would any other server. So I wanted to be clear on what that meant. Well, what do you lock down, right? So it started out, I was just going to show the URL rewriting rules to block, the Cold Fusion administrator, block sensitive files, block some HTTP verbs that will show up in security scanners and stuff. And when I started writing the post, I ended up adding in a few CF config settings you want to have set. I even added a few server.json settings, like turning off directory browsing. So here's the blog post for that. But it's basically kind of a little how-to with a bunch of copy and paste that if you want to run CommandBox in production, especially just directly without IIS or Apache sitting in front of it, you can lock it down just like any other server, and this gives you all the steps for it.
Very cool. Yep, and that's on the ortussolutions.com blog. And yeah, it looks like a pretty good setup. To be honest, I should probably go through it myself and upgrade a couple of mine to make sure I don't miss anything. So
yeah, Gavin. Yep. Especially since my sites, my personal sites, run on your hardware. you're
yeah, too funny. So we did mention Matt Gifford has started blogging again. So he has 4 blog posts out in the last 4 days. So he's been a little busy. So the first one was actually about Adobe Cold Fusion Summit 2019. So he talks about his experience there. Never been to Vegas before, he said as well. So that was an experience. First Summit, first Vegas. But he had a great time, and he talks a little bit about it, and that was good. And then he explains why he's been missing for the last few years. And basically it came down to when he moved, his blog broke, and he just never got around to fixing it. So he enjoyed the peace and quiet for a while. But yeah, I mean, we've done some projects with him too over the past few years, so we knew he was working on Cold Fusion stuff. But I guess even Adobe thought he'd gone. So pretty interesting.
Yep.
And then since he's been working a lot with CB Streams, one of the
I haven't even seen this post. I'm scanning through it right now. It's just some nice stuff.
Yep. So because he's used CB Streams for quite a while now, and so he has Adventures with CB Streams. That's a new series he started. Nice. And so one starts with explaining what it is and how it works, and then he starts talking about struct grouping too. So we have all those 4 blog posts in there. But if you just want to go check them out right now, you can go to monkeyworks.com, and that monkey is spelled Monkeh.
It's like monkey.
Works.
Monkey.
Yep. So you got to put the accent in there to get it right. So
I guess so.
monkeyworks.com. And then he's got those blog posts there. You can see back to 2016 when he had some other ones as well. But yep. So good to see him back and active in the community here, posting. He's always been adding a lot of APIs and GitHub projects for.
Yeah, if you look on ForgeBox, you can see stuff he's added there.
So yeah, so we knew he was still alive and kicking, but but it's good to have him blogging again too. So we can't get too many good blog posts. So Ben Adele also blogged a couple of things this last couple of weeks, and one of them was on CF query params, and I guess it's pretty interesting that it actually fails silently in Lucee if you have an empty list. So it's pretty strange. So he sort of explained that I guess there are some existing bugs tickets for this, but in Adobe versus versus Lucee, they behave a little differently. And so if you have an empty list in the end clause, Cold Fusion just ignores the entire clause completely, which is interesting. But in Lucee, depending if you're running it in CF query or a query execute will actually be different. Query execute will throw an error, and CF query just ignores it but returns no records. So 3 different
no records or all records?
Lucee, he said, returned no records. Cold Fusion returns all records, and query execute in Lucee throws an error. So
I don't know about all records. If I say, get me all the items in this list, and I give you an empty list, then I would kind of expect nothing back.
Yeah, compared to contains, which everything should contain an empty string. So
yeah, I guess it kind of depends semantically how you think about it. But I mean, from a SQL standpoint, if I was going to say inner join on this table and that table was empty, you would get no records back. I would think of it more, in that aspect.
So yeah, I think the end should return no records. If it was contains or something, it would be different. But yeah. So anyway, he explained it. He has a couple examples, as very thorough Ben Adele is. Interesting. And there's a couple of links to the tickets too, if you guys want to go vote on those and tell them what they should be doing the right way.
Yeah, hopefully. Because failing silently is like the bane of my existence. Yep. I hate it when something doesn't work.
But you don't know it doesn't work.
And you don't know it doesn't work because it's in there. Looks like Egal, one of the developers at Lucee, has already commented and said it shouldn't be too hard to fix. I'm a bit swamped, but I'll look into it soon. So he's promising to at least throw a better error message. So that's good. Hopefully you'll be able to jump onto that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously consistency between CF query and query execute would be nice too, because
for sure, yeah, the same code should run the same in both places. Otherwise, people just pull their hair out when a language isn't consistent.
So, I mean, obviously everyone has their bugs. Hopefully we'll get that one fixed soon for you. But again, nice to see Ben blogging about stuff like that. Those are the things that'll get you. So it's nice to have something to search on Google and find. You're like, I'm not crazy. It really is happening.
Well, just because Ben's blogged about it doesn't preclude the possibility of you still being crazy. But
I'm certifiable, apparently. Not certificated, but okay. So Nolan, as I mentioned, with CF Summit was very busy. Took a lot of notes, and he has a lot of blog posts. So we're not going to talk about each one because there's plenty of them. But if you go to selfishasta.com, you can see his write-ups, and he's got the keynotes. He's got a lot of different sessions. So pretty much any session he attended, he writes some pretty good notes and attaches those there. So
we talked about Matt Gifford giving Ben Adele a run for his money on number of blog entries, but I think Nolan's might be giving them both a run for their money. I mean, look at this. He said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this month. It's almost one a day.
Yep. I'm sure he's probably going to have a few more too, because he's going to CF Camp. So he's going to be writing those up as well. Usually does, blog posts beforehand talking about what sessions he's going to go to. And he likes to give a good summary. So, yep. Nolan's always a good blogger. So selfishasta.com. You can check out his blog there, and a lot of great content all year round, not just CF Summit. But also, Pete Freitag has the Hacktoberfest tips for contributors. So he mentions he's got a pretty big project with a lot of pull requests, but when Hacktoberfest rolls around, everyone jumps in and gets to work, and so he's got a lot of work. So he personally does review each one, so it takes time. So he's like, if you're going to do the work, please read these hints and tips so your contributions can be, productive and efficient, and make it easier on him to merge in. So he's got some good points. I mean, he talks about formatting, and, they're just good practices in general. So, if you're contributing to a project whether it's open source or your team, these are some good tips. So
yeah,
go
it
check
says
that
it's
out.
merged over 900 pull requests, I assume on CFDocs. So.
Yep, and if you go to the front page of CFDocs, I think they have the top contributors there too. So
They do, yeah. He gamifies it.
yep, so you guys can work your way up that list. Maybe make the top 100, top 50 if you really game. But a lot of the docs there are really well thought out. But they can always do more examples. So I'm always looking at stuff. Go, oh man, there's no example for that. Especially if you're trying to write something in CF script that you used to write in tags in the old days and you forget. He does have cfscript.me, which you can convert tags to script. But yeah, if you got examples, that's a great way to add to the docs. Just a few more of those, examples in there would be really useful. A lot of them are missing that because he basically scraped all the documentation from Lucee and Cold Fusion and combined them a long time ago. And so examples are, something we're adding to it. Also, which versions support what is really useful too. So, if you're not sure what to do,
so the top contributor to CFDocs is Sebastian Hedrick from Hamburg, Germany. I wonder if I'll run into him at CF Camp. That's pretty cool. He's currently the top contributor. It says 1,028 contributions.
Oh, wow, that is pretty impressive. Very cool.
But that guy will have his Hacktoberfest t-shirt in no time. He keeps that up.
Yep. So definitely want to check that out. And again, he's got some great tips there. And Pete does a lot of great things. So support those who support the community. Brian Class has also had another blog post out. So he's updated his versions of his My AWS S3 and CloudFront signing utility. So I guess he had built these quite some time ago, but he's just gone and made some updates to those. So
that's cool. Got to chat with Brian Class at CF Summit. So
yep, I always like catching up with Brian. He's a great guy, and he's doing some fun things, and just a good person in general. So it's good to catch up with everybody there. So very cool. And now the highlight of our blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. We actually have a video.
I almost stole your thunder on this earlier.
Yep. So we talk about Matt Gifford and his prolific blogging. Well, Brad reminded us of a video that Matt released in 2010.
9 years ago.
So it's a pretty cool little song. It's got some
Daft Punk.
Yep. Faster, better, stronger. And so he adds some Cold Fusion flavor to the song with some visuals. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty cool. I thought about playing it live on the podcast here, but we'll probably get some copyright infringement issues.
YouTube would reach in and thunk you in the back of the head and take your lunch money if you dared use copyrighted content.
But we're going to share that live in the chat right now. And if you go to youtube.com and search Cold Fusion -faster, better, stronger, Matt Gifford, you'll see this awesome video. And it's
so I told Matt we needed more of the music videos, and I asked if he would take requests, and he said always. So
yeah,
if there's a video you want to see Matt Cold Fusionify, send it to him.
Yeah, so that's good fun. Definitely check that out, guys. It's a good laugh, but it's pretty cool. I was pretty impressed with his visual, so I won't spoil it. I'll let you guys take care of that. So pretty cool. So we also have some CFML jobs. And because, to be honest, the tweets has been kind of crazy lately. Twitter has gone nuts because of all the CF Summit 2019 posts. And so if you want
security updates.
Yep. But if you do want to find out more about CF Summit, there's a whole lot of slides and videos and blog posts around it. Just use the hashtag CF Summit 2019 and you'll get all of those. But we did steal a few jobs. So if I went to getcfmljobs.com, and I saw that just in October, there's been about 8 jobs posted. Actually, 9. There's a lot. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in India. And it looks like
there's a lot of these in India.
5 or 6 in the States. So we've got.
I might move to India. There's a lot of Cold Fusion work there.
Yep. So in the States, we've got Springfield, Virginia, Woodlawn, Maryland. We also have Irving, Texas, Marysville, Maryland as well. We got Melbourne, Florida. So a good selection of places. A lot of them are full-time Cold Fusion developer jobs. And in India, I can't even pronounce some of these. Maharashtra, a couple there. Karnataka, and then in Uttar Pradesh. So there's a few locations, great job opportunities. We're going to link them here. But if you go to getcfmljobs.com, it actually pulls in a few feeds from other job sites and includes them there. So
shouldn't it be list CFML jobs? Because get means you're only getting one record.
Depends on who you ask.
we were having some fun joking about all the different naming conventions that even the people inside of Ortus sometimes gravitate towards. We're not all the same.
Yep, exactly. So a lot of great opportunities there.
Share those with anybody who you think might be interested. Share the Cold Fusion love there.
Yep, for sure. So ForgeBox module of the week. We've already talked about this a little bit today. So we thought since 2.0 of CBSecurity was released, that should be the ForgeBox module of the day. As we mentioned, it's got some, a lot of features in there. Security rule engine for incoming requests, annotation-driven security, also based on permissions. The JWT, there's JSON Web Tokens we've talked about so much today. But also, cool thing is you can plug in any authentication, CB Auth by default. But if you have your own authentication system, you can tie into that as well. It's really pretty cool. There's a lot of good stuff in it, and a lot of configuration options if you need them. So
one of the cool things is even the security rules engine. There's a nice little visualizer for development. You can actually hit a URL on your development server, and it'll output a web page that shows you all of your security rules and what the regex is or whatever that you're matching. So between that and like the route visualizer and some of the other visualizers we have, it really helps with development to kind of just visualize all the configuration you have going on. And we use that a lot during our training in Vegas. We'd create a security rule, and we could go to a little route in the URL, and we could visualize whether our security rule had been sucked into the configuration properly. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool. So this one's had almost 35,000 installs now. Obviously, this is the new version, but yeah, it's pretty popular and a lot of people using it. And remember, this is a major version, so don't just upgrade it willy-nilly. There may be some backwards compatibility changes you might need to make. But yeah,
just go upgrading. Be all cray.
Yep. So version 2.0, and you can box install CBSecurity to check that out, and it's available on ForgeBox if you search CBSecurity. So short and sweet because we already covered that one pretty nicely.
Yep.
The VSCode hint tips and tricks of the week. So this week we're going to actually look at the VSCode TestBox. So the other CF Camp training is going to be on TestBox, so I thought it'd be appropriate to list this one out. So this is a pretty cool little bundle of tools here. So the VSCode-TestBox module gives you a bunch of things. So it gives you quick ways to jump to specs inside of the VSCode. Also has some cool code skeleton snippets too. And there's TestBox snippets and CodeBox testing snippets. So instead of having to type all the closures that you would need to for a describe block or an it block or some of those other blocks, you can do snippets to be able to, scaffold those out for you and make your life a little easier. So
yeah, those snippets are super handy. We've used the heck out of them in our Vegas training. Because, Luis would basically live code for 20, 30 minutes and just show like, all right, let's create some tests. We need a spec for this. We need an expectation for this, blah, blah, blah. And he's just kind of typing this all from scratch and using VSCode and the TestBox extension. The describe blocks and the closures and everything are just flying in there because he's so familiar with all the snippets. So it's definitely a time saver. Otherwise, you're always copying and pasting stuff. So.
Yep, or you're just typing them out like me and then you miss them up.
That would suck.
So yeah, so I got to get better at using that myself. I got to use snippets more, but it's a cool little module. I haven't installed. I just need to use it a lot more, but it's definitely a handy one there. So a lot of people should be using it. So if you go search on the VSCode extension toolbar, VSCode-TestBox, and you'll see that it's an Ortus Solutions extension. So definitely want to check that out. So next up, is our Patreon supporters. So just one thing before we go in and thank them all, I wanted to say it was great to meet some of them. So there was actually several of these Patreon supporters at CF Summit, and even some of them in our workshop. So Scott Steinbeck was in there, and Eric Hoffman was in there, and of course there were some others. I saw Calvin Stetton talk. He actually spoke at CF Summit as well, so it was good to see him. And Andrew Davis was there as well. So a lot of people. Matt Clemente spoke there as well. I had I met him up at the reception. They had a little Cold Fusion party, and I was talking with Matt for a while there too. So it's good to see so many, Patreon supporters active in the community, and good to see them face to face too. But
right on.
So I know that Patreon actually updated their website just recently. Brad noticed that it misplaced a few of our items, so we're going to be working on fixing that.
It.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, right now we're showing us at 41% of our sponsorship goal. So that'll be pretty exciting to see if we can reach that goal, and then we'll set another one.
Yeah, we're trying to start small, Obviously, we try and do a lot with the community, and all of our open source projects are out there because of support from our professional open source supported products, as well as the Patreon supporters. So we thank you for your support, and if you guys can help us get to the next level, we have several packages available. So depending on what you'd like, there's even some where you can have monthly meetings with Luis for planning and everything else if your company wants to really put their money behind Ortus, and would obviously appreciate that. But there's small packages as well for those individuals. So everything helps, and we're really appreciative of all of those that step up and support us with Patreon. So you want to go through the list, Brad?
I can. I just noticed a typo on that page, and so I'm bugging people to fix it. It's not really a typo. It says that we use Apache 2 license for all of our products, and technically Command Box is the LGPL, so still open source, but a little bit different license. But yes, back to the podcast. Andrew Davis, Brian White, Carl von Stetten, Dali, Dan Carr, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Leshnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeremy Adams, John Farrar, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamry, Laxma Tirtohadi, Matthew Clemente, Richard Herbert, Samuel Knowlton, Scott Steinbeck, VJ, and Yogesh Mathur are all currently Patreons. So thank you so much, you guys, for helping keeping the wheels in the bus go round and round. We appreciate it.
Great way to put it. So thank you, everybody. We do thank you guys, and if you guys are at CF Camp, come up and say hi to Brad and the team. I'm sure he'd like to thank you in person. He'll buy you an orange juice from the special orange juice maker at CF Camp.
You mean the free orange juice? You just push the button.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. That's our open source price range. Anyways, again, if you guys did miss last week's episode, it's available on YouTube, and the podcast version will be out pretty soon here. Sorry, we're a little late editing. We were so busy at the camp, CF Summit, doing the a lot of presentations and the trainings, and a lot of great time. So anyway, for all of those who made it, thanks for coming and saying hi, and thanks for everybody watching and listening at home. Have a great week.
Yep. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.